Welcome to Brier's Music Showcase. I'm Bryer and welcome back to another video. And in this one, I'm doing another episode of Favorite Song Each Album, where I go through a band's discography and I name my favorite song. And as a bonus, I give an honorable mention. And this honorable mention could be either my second favorite song or just a song I just want to highlight because I think it's underrated. So in this one, I'm going to be doing the great American band, the Eagles. So, like I just said, they're one of the great American bands. They've sold millions of albums, very influential, and so I think it's time to finally give them their dues. And this is actually a good idea because, for one, I'm planning a ranking video sometime in the future. I'm not giving any dates because I don't even know how long that's going to take, because I want to do something similar I did with the Kate Bush video I did earlier this year. So yeah, it's probably going to take a while, but until then, hopefully this will suffice for now. So if you like this series, please give this video a like, subscribe if you are new. As always, in the comments, let me know your favorite song on each of these albums. And without further ado, let's begin. So of course, we got to begin with the debut album from 1972. It's a really strong album. And I'm going to be frank, some of my choices for these albums is not going to be that, obscured or anything. I'm going to be pretty cliche. So my favorite song on this album is going to be the first track, which is Take It Easy, which, fun fact, was actually written, it was co-written by Glenn Frey and Jackson Browne. And Jackson Browne would also do a version of the song on his album For Every Man. So it's actually a pretty good rendition, so go check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, Take It Easy, just a great song to kick off a career with. Just pretty much sets the tone of this band's career. It's a good blend of kind of country, it's a bit of a mainly a country rock song, but it's a terrific one. Just the guitar playing on it is phenomenal. Of course, Glenn Frey has a great voice, and it's just a really chill song for the most part. And yeah, that's gonna be why I'm gonna be having that as my #1 favorite song on the album. When it comes to the honorable mention, this is actually going to be a deep cut, but this one is called Chug All Night, which is a great rocker. Even though by this point they were mainly focusing on the country aspect of things, but every so often they come out with a good rock song, and Chug All Night is a great one by them, especially early on. So yep, those are my two picks off the debut. Once again, I'm going to be pretty cliche when talking about the Desperado album. Of course, my favorite song has to be the title track. I mean, it's a classic by them. It's one of their most well-known songs, especially early on. It's just a great, beautiful number. Don Henley's on lead vocals, and he sounds so good on the track. I mean, he's always been a great singer. And yeah, it's just sets the tone perfectly of being a desperado. You kind of feel the loneliness, kind of the, this person's on his own, and I think it just suits the music and the lyrics. There's some people out there who say this song's kind of cheesy, kind of corny, but shut up. So yeah, it's got to be my favorite song on here. I play that song so often. The song I go back to the most on this album, even though the whole album is great. Yeah, Desperado has got to be my #1 favorite song on the album. So an honorable mention, I'm going to go with another great underrated rock song on the album, and that is Outlaw Man, which is kind of the exact opposite of Desperado, because Desperado is kind of this, like I said before, it's kind of supposed to, showcase loneliness, sadness, melancholy. Outlaw Man's kind of the more is like the exact opposite, where it's about this guy, where at least I think is about a guy who's just this outlaw, kind of running from the law, kind of tough. So it's much more hard rocking on this one to kind of showcase that. But it's a great one, and it's a great one. I mean, the beginning of it is it's like a blend between the instrumental track from Duel and Dalton, and then it goes right into Outlaw Man. Just a great kind of transition into it. But yeah, it's a fantastic song, and those are my two picks off Desperado. Now we go on to On the Border, which I will admit I am going to go a little bit off the beaten path. I'm going to name some songs that not many people talk about, even though there are some well-known songs on the album like Already Gone, The Best of My Love. I'm actually not going to talk about any of those songs. So my favorite song on here is actually a song called James Dean, which of course is, you know, about the actor who died very young. And I don't know why, that's always been the song I always go back to on this album. I think it's one of the early songs I've heard at random. But I just like it. I just like the sound of it. It's very catchy. I like how they sing James Dean. It's just, again, it's not too crazy. It's not really that, you know, it's not out there or anything. It's kind of more your typical, not quite country, but mostly rock song. But yeah, I've always liked that song for some reason. So yeah, that's gonna be my favorite song. But when it comes to the album mention, I'm gonna give Bernie Leadon a good shout out, because he writes a really great song on this album, and it's called My Man, which of course was written in tribute to his friend Graham Parsons. Of course, they originally worked together on Graham Parsons' Flying Burrito Brothers. It was kind of like a country rock sort of band. And of course, Bernie left that band and went on and joined the Eagles. But yeah, it's a really sweet tribute to him. I really enjoyed the sound of it, and I think it's one of Bernie Leadon's best songs, frankly. So yeah, those are the two picks for On the Border. After that, we have One of These Nights, which is another great album, but I'm going to go back to my cliched answers, because my favorite song on here has always been Take It to the Limit. I mean, hands down, probably Randy Meisner's best vocal performance. I mean, his vocals are just soaring through it. I mean, Take It to the Limit, boy does Randy, he just goes beyond the limits on this track. Just absolutely spectacular. And of course the band's backing him up. Also, it's just all so good, so powerful. And yeah, it's just a great song. It's a classic by them, but for a great reason, so it has to be my number one. And my honorable mention is probably another one that's cliched, but it's gonna be Lion Eyes, which is a kind of more your country soft rock sort of sound, but I've always dug that sound. Of course, that's Glenn Frey on vocals, and yep, it's a great song. And it's pretty long too. I think it's like about over 6-ish minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Let me verify. Yeah, it's about over 6 minutes. But yeah, I've always liked the tone of it, just like this kind of the more relaxed feel of it. So that's my honorable mention for One of These Nights. So now we finally get to the Behemoth album itself. Of course, Hotel California. Yep, I mean, I'll talk more about it when we get to that ranking video someday, but favorite song on the album. Now, I'm gonna be frank, I am not gonna mention the title track, because of course it's a classic song, we've all talked about it, and of course I still love the track, but I want to give some love to some other songs that are on this album. So the song I'm going to have as my favorite is going to be the final song, which is called The Last Resort. That's a song I have grown to appreciate more the more times I've heard it. Just another great, beautiful song by Don Henley. Just the lyrics are so beautiful, kind of sad, but kind of a little bit hopeful. But yeah, the strings on the track, of course, I'm a sucker for strings, and so yep, that one does it for me. But yeah, it's just a perfect way to close out the album. Just absolutely spectacular. It's an underrated gem, I must say. So yeah, and then going to my honorable mention, I'm going to talk about another Randy Meisner song, and a really great one. It's called Try and Love Again, which is of course the last song Randy would sing before he would leave the band, and I think it's a great song for him to go out on. Just another great vocal by him, and again the harmony is just also really great. I don't think I mentioned the harmonies at all in this video, but the harmonies, of course, gotta shout those out, because the Eagles are known for their close harmony. And yeah, just love the songs, and I love this album. So there you have it. Those are the two picks for Hotel California. Now we get to The Long Run, which is kind of a little bit of a step down from the previous album, but still has some great tracks in it. my favorite song, and I'm gonna go with the Timothy B. Schmidt song, I Can't Tell You Why. I mean, that's another one of those songs I always come back to on this album. You know, Timothy B. Schmidt, he's no Randy Meisner, but he has a great voice in his own right, and you know, usually his voice has been used for ballads, and it would have been kind of nice to hear him do a more heavier song, but he does great with ballads, so I guess why not? But yeah, I've always loved I Can't Tell You Why. It's a great vocal, and I also just think it's a very, you know, it's a melancholic song, which again, that's always been my thing. I've always kind of liked sad music, but yeah, it just has a great, I just like the tone of it, and even the closing solo by Joe Walsh is always kind of a nice little piece of ear candy to finish it out. So yeah, that's my favorite song. And my honorable mention, I'm gonna go with the title track, which is the song that opens up the album. Just a great catchy song to open it up. I've always enjoyed all the things around it. I like some of the guitar things that Joe Walsh does on the track. Yeah, it's just a great way to open up the album, and pretty much sets the tone perfectly on this. So yeah, there you have it. Those are the two picks for the long run. And finally, we get to the Long Road Out of Eden, which of course to many Eagles fans is definitely the weakest of their catalog, and I wouldn't argue with that, but there's still some decent songs on here. So my favorite song has pretty much always been the second song, which is How Long, which I think was the biggest hit on here. I mean, yeah, it sounds great. You know, it's kind of going back to that country, sort of country, but still has a rock edge to it. You have Glenn Frey and Don Henley sharing lead vocals, which is kind of nice. But yeah, it's just this kind of feel-good sort of sounding song. Again, not much to say about it, but it's decent. It's pretty good. And then we get to my honorable mention, which is another Timothy B. Schmidt song, which again, it's kind of corny, but you know, I've always liked that sort of sound. But I'm gonna go with I Don't Want to Hear Anymore. Like I said, it's kind of corny, it's kind of cheesy, but you know, I'm a sucker, so what can I say? But yeah, it's a pretty nice, another great vocal by him. It's, you know, again, there's really not a whole lot to say about it. It's kind of your run-of-the-mill sort of Schmidt song, but I like it. It's still pretty decent. So there you have it. Those are the two picks from The Long Road Out of Eden. So there you have it. Those are my favorite songs on each Eagles album. Like I said in the beginning, comment below what is your favorite song on each album. And of course, I look forward to those in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. So take care and goodbye for now.